My cousin messaged me and he was like, "Hey, Disney is making a card game. We really need to get on this." And he sent me the first placard that he saw of the cards, and I saw Maleficent Dragon, and immediately I was like, "Oh well, I'm hooked. I'm gonna be playing the game."
What is like the life of being a part of Maelstrom look like for you?
Immediately became family. Immediately all meshed really well together. Just because we're doing well, or we've continued to be at, I guess, the peak of competitive play, we don't want to stop others from getting there. We want to help others rise up to that. And if there's something we can do to help people get there, we would love to see it. They aren't out here saying, "Oh, well, this game sucks," or "this part of the game sucks," or what, they all of us really do enjoy playing the game. Now, are there ups and downs? Absolutely. Is it okay to put out criticisms and say, "Hey, this could be better"? Absolutely. But there's a difference between putting out constructive criticism and just dogging on something and not offering any feedback. And I think that's what they value more. People who are willing to have the dialogue instead of just immediately saying, "Oh, well, this is just never going to get better, and I don't know why we continue to deal with it," and have that kind of attitude.
I had a great opportunity to sit down with Logan, also known as Xenulous. He is a member of Team Maelstrom. You also may have seen him on the Illumineers stream every single Monday night. He's an awesome guy, a part of the community, and he is a great person that I wanted to talk about Lorcana teams with. I think that Lorcana teams have so much room to grow in the space. I think that a lot of the community doesn't even know about them. And so this video is to kind of just spread some knowledge, have some conversations about teams, and hopefully you have some fun with us. Take a listen. Thanks for watching. Well, I mean, my name's Eric. Obviously, I don't think we've ever met, but obviously you're on the internet, so people watch you, so you got to accept that. But big fan of the show you and Liam do. Been watching you guys mostly on like the VODs. I have a Monday night Bible study, so I tend to miss the stream, but I'll go back and watch them usually the day after and things like that. And so just been a fan of you guys and what y'all do. I've interacted with some guys from Maelstrom. I did a coaching thing with Sky, and I've played against Humble because I'm in Florida. So him and I have run into each other at some events.
Okay.
So
I'll be moving down to Florida here in the next couple of weeks.
heck yeah, man. Where at?
Lakeland.
Lakeland? Okay, not far. I'm in Jacksonville, so I'm probably, I don't know, maybe an hour or so east of you.
Yeah, it's not too far away, actually.
Yeah. Well, man, I've just I've seen something in Lorcana, and that is that the teams in Lorcana have not yet kind of gained the clout or the kind of importance in the community, such as maybe some other TCGs and other kinds of esports and stuff like that. Like I've played a lot of video games in the past. One I used to follow a lot was like Rocket League, and it was just there's this real powerful thing to a game when you also have a reason to go and watch other people play it. And I think that is something I want to continue to grow in Lorcana. When I think about like DLC Indie, I'm unfortunately not able to go. Just had a baby recently. And so,
Oh, congrats, man.
yeah, thank you. My third daughter, so that's tons of fun. It's a better reason to not be there, but but with that, it's this like I love watching the stream, but if I don't necessarily have an idea of stakes or people who are playing, it can kind of be that I'm hoping that the casters can really entertain the stream or something to that nature. And so I think it really helps when I know the person that's getting into the game when I'm watching a live match. And a lot of that has to do with like following, right? Like building up following of individual players, because this is a bit of an individual sport, but teams also create that following as well. That if you begin to like develop a love and a care for a particular team, you begin to root for them when you're not, even at the events that they're going to be at. And I think it does something to like building the competitive like spectatorship and the enjoyment of the game. because there's probably, I don't know, hundreds, hopefully hundreds of thousands of people who like play Lorcana. But there's only like 2,000 people going to a DLC, right? And so it's like, man, why aren't we seeing, more spectatorship? There's probably some knowledge base there if people don't even know that there's a stream or something of that nature. But also, like, if they were to watch, who would they watch and why would they care, right? Versus like when you turn on Sunday football or you turn on the World Cup right now, like you have a reason to care for the teams. And so my hope in our discussion, and I think you would be a great person to talk to about this, is like, can we maybe shed some light on reasons for people to care about teams and what are great about like the team you're on and other teams out there and what they offer and what they bring to the community? That's really like my hope of this video, not to be an infomercial for Maelstrom or anything, but you will be a lot of your experience will be from them, so it'll be a lot of anecdotal evidence from them. But obviously you are a member of Maelstrom. I did a little bit of research and apparently it was Team Labyrinth at one point. Is that true?
Yeah, back in the early days.
Yeah. Tell me about like, how did you come to be a part of the team? How did Labyrinth come to be and then shift over to Maelstrom? And, what has kind of been the little bit of your history as well as the history of the team?
Sure. I mean, I guess I can start with how I started with the game. I was a traveling operator for my company, and my cousin messaged me, and he was like, "Hey, Disney is making a card game. We really need to get on in on this." And he sent me the first placard that he saw of the cards, and I saw Maleficent Dragon, and immediately I was like, "Oh well, I'm hooked. I'm gonna be playing the game."
Heck yeah.
I was a Disney kid growing up, so I saw something like that, and immediately was just it was no brainer. And then when I started learning more about the card game, I played a lot of the old World of Warcraft TCG as well as Hearthstone, and this game plays very, very similarly to both of those games. And I was really competitive in both of those. So again, all of those skills I had from my years in college of playing that game competitively and then moving on to Hearthstone and trying to push in the professional circuit of that, like just kind of immediately transferred over to Lorcana because the skill set's the same.
Okay.
Back in the early days of like season 1 and 2, the first original online presence for playing the game was there was a gentleman, his tag was Manticore, and he started doing online events, Manticore weeklies, Manticore monthlies. um, and then he had his Discord where he would offer up prize cards for different tournaments. So it would be like whatever enchanted from set 1 and 2 that were kind of on the cheaper side, but it was still something that was worth playing for.
Yeah.
And because I was traveling so much, I wasn't able to go to local stores very often, if at all. So that was just kind of my way of interacting with the game and getting to actually play it and kind of satisfy that competitive itch. And through playing in the Manticore events, that is how what was the original Team Labyrinth got to be. There were a bunch of us who were doing well in the early days for the Manticore events, and then I don't know if like how long have you been around in the community?
Yeah, so I've been playing since Gen Con when it released, but really didn't get like into the online portion of the game until like the past 2, 3 years, or
Okay.
2 years. So I'd say since like set 5, I got really into the online, like getting to know the rest of the community. I didn't go to a
Hmm.
DLC until this season. I didn't go to any of the first season's DLCs. And so that I like, for instance, the Manicore thing, had no clue. I went to like a bunch of locals for set 1 and 2, but just wasn't very involved online.
Yeah. So on back in the day, like we had the Manticore weeklies and monthlies, and had a leaderboard that would follow up to what was supposed to be a bigger invitational. But then we also had the original Tia Beastie events. Um, Tia Beastie obviously is the beast. If you go on YouTube, he's just the largest face on that, and that's his now wife. Um, so she got really involved and she wanted to run those events, and they were pretty big cash events. So anybody that was really grinding the game knew about it and immediately gravitated toward those things. And Manticore, after seeing certain people continuously do well in his events, but also the Tia Beastie events, he reached out to all of us individually and was like, "Hey, I see you guys are doing well at this game. I have the intention of making a team because he came from the Pokemon world where they do have a
Hmm.
competitive, a lot more, I guess you could say, strict and regimented competitive circuit, and teams are very well established there as well as names. So his whole idea was, I want to create something that is as big in Lorcana as it is in Pokemon. So all the people that are on Maelstrom now were not on Labyrinth then, but
Yep.
that is how all of us originally met each other, is because Manticore reached out and then we all got in a Discord and just kind of said, "Hi, we're doing well at this game. How you guys doing? Let's make a team and continue to do well at the game." Um,
So it was like an
I don't
Avengers
really,
Assemble kind of deal. Hey, let's get all the
yeah,
peak heroes and make a wonder team.
yeah. And that's, yeah, that's kind of what it felt. And genuinely, through just us interacting, playing the game, going to events, um, all of us were very involved in the online circuits and the Manticore weeklies and the T Beastie events. So when the first season competitive circuit got announced, we were all just immediately locked in, ready to go. And the first time we all met in person, like Humble and R&B and I had met in person, and No, I'm Not, Kendall Burnett,
Hmm.
I'd met him as well. But the first time all of us outside of those people met for the first time in person was the very first DLC Atlanta in
Okay,
season one, and it was just immediate family. Um,
that's awesome.
talk about meeting strangers that you've only talked to on Discord,
Yeah.
and like just immediate, like you would think that because it was a group of 8 of us, and you would think, oh well, maybe there's a little bit of a click situation, or a couple people would branch off and go test by themselves, or another couple would go over here and do this and do their own thing. It wasn't like that at all. We immediately became family, immediately all meshed really well together, and I mean that was honestly the best weekend of Lorcana. From like that starting point was just kind of the catalyst of, okay, well, this is a lot more than just a competitive game. This has now become my new core friend group, and these are people that I really enjoy spending time with and being with. So we're just going to continue to cultivate that and foster that, and
That's awesome.
that's kind of how we've continued to do things. Um, I don't really want to get too in the weeds about how we transitioned
Okay.
from Labyrinth to Maelstrom. The most I'll say is we had a disagreement with the direction the team needed to go and how things needed to be handled with our former owner, which
Hmm.
was Manticore. So we decided we're going to leave him and create our own thing. And when we were coming up with names or just a new brand, Sailor, we voted to be our new team captain in this new venture. He's also an artist and creates a lot of, I guess you could say, like advertising art and things like that for
Okay.
different companies. He's a freelance artist. So he created our logo, and it probably, like for a week, we just brainstormed names and, what sounds good, what is something that really represents what it is that we're trying to do. And Maelstrom just kind of became everything we were looking for. It kind of feels like we were really swept up in all of the emotions and the craziness of what this game has done for us. Like it's legitimately changed all of our lives on the team. Like I can honestly say I would not be where I am in life without the friends I've made, the events I've been to, and the things that the doors Lorcana has opened for me.
I love it.
So that it just kind of became a no-brainer. It just felt correct. Like Maelstrom was, it just felt like home, more
Yeah.
or less. Um, and yeah, since we moved from Labyrinth to Maelstrom, that's just kind of what we've continued to do. A couple of guys moved on to World Class Cards.
Hmm.
They got offers there, and they decided that was, for the best for them and their situations that they were going for. And no hard feelings at all for them to make that step. Um, we're still very good friends with all of them. I mean, still talk to them at events. I
Yeah.
mean, you'll be very hard pressed to find any of the top players that when we are at events or even outside of events, like aren't talking to each other or testing together. Um, it's just we represent different entities, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I think that's the, I mean, I love it because it's just, I think, a beauty of this game. The nature of it just kind of brings a lot more um, unity, like integrity, kindness. Like it just is like, it's almost the nature of it is calling you to like, do things well and have great relationships. And that's what's super cool about the game. And yeah, I mean, I love like, you never quite know when you're gonna find your crew, and stuff like that. And so, a game like this can really bring people together in a very special way. I mean, just even my local community in Jacksonville, uh, just creating really good relationships with really awesome people that I probably would have never met in any other, shape or form, which is super cool. But well, thanks for sharing that. I know anytime there's either people leaving or reorgs or any kind of the stuff. There's all kinds of mess that can be in that, as well as hearts. These are people you care about. Like this isn't. It's rarely just business, so to speak. But thanks for sharing what you could on that. I
Yeah,
do wonder. When it comes to being a part of Maelstrom, I think the average person who's not a part of a team, um, you know, could you one kind of share like there's different versions of like what is a team? For instance, like me, I got two buddies. We're really good friends. Been friends since high school. We play this game together. We decided to just make hats with a logo on it because it was fun, And so, like, quote unquote, is that a team? Maybe, that kind of thing. But could you kind of share the spectrum of what teams kind of look like in Lorcana, and then what is like the life of being a part of Maelstrom look like for you?
sure. So I guess you could say we take this game a lot more seriously than the average person. Um, we have dedicated team testing nights every other week. When it's leading up to events, we do a lot of internal testing together. We're constantly sharing ideas with each other. But so services we provide, just because we do take the game so seriously and we spend a lot of time really digging into the nitty gritty of meta analysis and deck building. We offer a lot of coaching services. Our Discord does have a paid section, so you can see all of our deck lists that we're working on. You can ask us questions, immediately if you have them about what do you think of this, or literally anything that comes up about the game. We just open that space up for anybody who wants to have a free space to ask those questions or feel like they're not going to be judged if they have ideas. We welcome anybody to come in and bring us your ideas so we can pick through it. Maybe you found something that's really unique that will work that other people haven't seen. Um, but ultimately, what we strive for is to be as good and as excellent at the game as possible. Um, and we reflect that not only through gameplay, but also fostering the community that we have. All of us carry ourselves with a level of respect, I would say. Very much so, try to uphold those standards at events, and also just try to make it known that if you see a Maelstrom member, and maybe this is your first TCG, maybe it's your first big event, maybe you're in a room and you're feeling like it's a lot, or you feel overwhelmed, or you don't know how to approach certain things. We try to make it clear that if you see a Maelstrom member, feel free to come talk to us about those things. We want everybody to have a safe space playing this game. We very much so want this always to be that type of community. So we try to make sure we are that beacon as much as we can be.
Yeah, preach. We need. I mean, the amount of like I went to Milwaukee and Richmond, and those were my first DLCs. I'm a very generally kind of outgoing kind of guy, charismatic a little bit, but it was still like this is really intimidating. Like I've never been to a big old tournament like this, and so being there for people, being welcoming. I mean, the amount of people that you see online, and then you go and talk to them, and you're like, man, they're not like weird or mean or like, they're very engaging. And I felt that way with a lot of the Maelstrom guys. So I think you are accomplishing that desire in a lot of ways. And so like when it comes to, you said you do like bi-weekly testing nights. Is there like, I mean, you don't have to be specifics on numbers or anything, but being a part of a team, is there a thing that's like, hey, on winnings we do splitting, or what is we're helping one another get to the events and helping with flights, or like what is kind of the benefits of you particularly being a part of Maelstrom, outside of, obviously this is like a family to you now, like these are people that you really care about, so that alone is probably enough for you to just be a part of the community. But is there anything outside of that like there's both benefits for you as a player on the team, and then benefits for Maelstrom, the fact that you are on it?
So I can't speak for every team. I can just speak for what we do. So the way we are set up, our Discord, like I said, has a paid section of it. Um, Anybody that supports Maelstrom, the team, all of those funds go straight back into the team. And by that, I mean, it gets us to events if somebody is a little bit short on, flights or something like that. We have the funds there so we can help those costs a little bit. Um, we cover all of our Airbnbs if we're going to, like for DLCs. The last 3 DLCs we've been able to cover the cost of the Airbnbs because of the graciousness of our subscribers and the people who believe in us and want to support us.
Shout out to them,
Um,
they're awesome.
no, 100%. Like we love anybody who's in our Discord, and we try to make it. I mean, just like I was talking about, make sure they feel included and part of the family as much as we are. Um, that's why we spend so much time talking in our Discord, and we'll answer any questions people have because it helps us help ourselves get to bigger events when we need that extra help. Um, but as far as like prize splitting and things like that, unless we're specifically at a big event and we pair into one another and we have the conversation beforehand, um, we don't take anybody's winnings if they get there. Same thing with somebody's individual metafy or coaching sessions that they do. That's completely on them to promote and keep going. I mean, you can look at the two biggest examples I think we have would be Sailor and Humble. Sailor has his own Discord and his own community that he fosters and continues to grow, and Humble writes guides that he sells for pretty reasonable prices, I would say. Um, and we don't take any of that. That's on the individual to build and grow as they are, because we don't think it would be right to kind of dip into somebody else's
Yeah.
work for what we're doing when the team itself already has something that if somebody wants to support the team other than the individual, they have a route to do that. But if they want to support the individual, they're like, we also fully encourage people to do that as well.
Yeah, I think like Maelstrom is like a perfect example of a group of players coming together for a purpose, right? And there's other teams, for instance, an example maybe like Rare Hunters, where it's like a store, is sponsoring a team, and
Yeah.
they're also players and all that kind of stuff, and so there may be different, you know, expectations or things that happen within that. And then there's the guys like me and my two buddies who print a logo on a hat and we call ourselves something, so it's, I think there's like a wide range when it comes to this like team identity of how this works out and how it plays out. But it doesn't take away that like there are people that play the game really, really well, and they get together to do one of the most important things that I think that the community is unaware of, which is that deck testing piece that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I think like obviously the top players are the ones that are often breaking the meta, bringing decks out, and they did it usually within some sort of test group. Usually their team is kind of like the home for that. I don't know if you're familiar with like Formula One at all, but a lot of
Sure.
yeah, a lot of technology that was like created in Formula One has trickled down to the commercial like car industry. Like a lot of lane assist and all that kind of stuff that we have in cars now, like was first born in Formula One, and I view that very similarly of like when it comes to Lorcana or any other game is that like these pro level players that are able to put in the time, taking it very seriously, like you said, you guys do. You're sitting down and doing the work and the research and that putting that time in, and it trickles down to the average Joes. It trickles down to the folks who are just going to locals and an occasional set champ. Like we can go and view your deck list after the tournament, and copy paste and be like, all right. And then if you do create a guide or if you create, anything on MetaFight, like we can, or coaching sessions, like it all becomes available. And I think that's like a part of the like competitive ecosystem that I don't know that a lot of the average people of Lorcana are like understanding, knowing, or maybe even like I don't want to say respect because that might be a little too harsh of a term, but like giving dues to. Like we are able to grow this game and get better at this game often because of the people that are putting all this time in and then going and competing at the top level. And so that's like another avenue of value that I think that teams provide to just the average guy or gal. And this is kind of leading to the question of like, what value do you think that Maelstrom brings as an example, or just teams in general is bringing to the community outside of just, all right, hey, you guys are doing the deck testing, you're bringing some of that deck knowledge, you're maybe breaking the meta at a particular event, those kinds of things. What other value do you think you guys are bringing to the community as to why people should care about teams?
Sure. I feel like that's kind of an open-ended question, or maybe just variable depending on the person.
Yeah.
But I personally believe, and you kind of touched on it at the beginning, there's something to competitive sport, and I do think that TCGs at some level are sport. There's a lot of math, there's a lot of statistics. Obviously, there's a little bit of luck in TCGs. Like you can't get away from it. Anybody who does well at an event not only plays well and makes sure that they have lines memorized in whatever given situation, but you also have to get a little bit lucky. Like that just is kind of the nature of the beast. Um, but there's something to, like you were saying, turning on a stream and seeing somebody that you want to root for to do well, having some sort of name to latch onto, like, oh, I see this person and I followed their season, I know how they're doing, or I know how they've performed, or I want to see them win again, or oh, maybe I want to see this person come out on top over this person. There's just kind of that fundamental, I don't want to say us versus them because that's not quite the mindset I want to bring out, but having something to root for outside of possibly your own success can keep you invested, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why people invest into things like esports or NBA, NFL, buy team jerseys and follow names and things like that. You find something that you can enjoy or latch on to with somebody. And what we try to bring and, like I said, exemplify is that level of community interest and trying to make sure everybody feels like this game is a safe environment for anybody who wants to do well. But on top of that, we also try to let everybody know that just because we're doing well or we've continued to be at, I guess, the peak of competitive play, we don't want to stop others from getting there. We want to help others rise up to that. And if there's something we can do to help people get there, we would love to see it. I would love to see the day that everybody comes into Lorcana and they strive to be at the top level, if that's what their goal is, and they feel like they have avenues to go through to reach those goals, and they don't feel like hard stuck because, oh, well, the people at the top are just hiding all the knowledge. We want to make sure everybody feels included and feels like they have the stepping stones to get and reach to get to where they need to go or reach the goals that they have.
That's great. I love it. I well, one, it brings in the like legacy, or like the goal is bigger than just us, right? Like,
Yeah,
sure, it's great if we win, or become world champion or anything like that, but
yeah.
it,
But at the end of the day, if the game doesn't grow and people don't continue to have that hunger and that strive, I mean, we all of us on Maelstrom all believe that this game has the capability to be the 10, 15, 20-year TCG that can overtake one of the top three slots in Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And now One Piece is creeping up. We believe this game is good enough. This game has the IP that's strong enough. The gameplay is that good. The prizing is that good. The events are that level that we can reach those levels. And it also doesn't grow or continue to have that longevity if people come into the game and feel like they're gate capped from reaching the levels they
yeah,
want to reach.
I totally agree. um it is a like, I think Lorcana falls into a bit of a trap of, because it's Disney, there's a little bit of like, oh, is it a kids game, which it's great if kids play, no problem. But like Pokemon had to kind of overcome that as well, and it was like a lot of people grew up in it and all that kind of stuff. And we haven't grown up into it, right? Like this is very short-lived kind of thing. Um, and so I do agree that like it's got a lot of legs to it. But something that like I remember being in Milwaukee and Richmond, I believe. Like I saw tweets from you guys, doing community meetups and stuff like that. And I was like, this is super cool. I had stuff scheduled, so I wasn't able to like pop by and check it out. But there was just like, I think like that's another value entity that like, it isn't just, oh, hey, this is a meetup. Like this is the community thing. Like this is
Mhm.
like more than just, hey, buy my meta guide, or whatever that thing is. Like it is very like, hey, we want to meet you, we want to talk to you. You guys, I believe, I don't know how frequently you do it, but I've seen tweets on, hey, you're doing a community stream, and hey, come in and chat and hang out, and those kinds of things. And that kind of stuff is very unique at this level, that you don't like. The Jacksonville Jaguars do not have a community meetup night where I get to, high five the quarterback, or anything like that. So that is like something super cool. Or that like I can just tweet at you and be like, hey bud, like you want to do a call? This is, just very great about, a game like this, is there's not as much of a gatekeeping thing. There is a lot of community and a lot of openness and willingness to be with the community and help them grow. But it is just like, when I think of the value prop that is being brought on by teams, is like, hey, it's here's some amazing players that are doing the work that you don't probably have the time to do, that are going to be able to help you know more of the game and understand more of the game, so that you can compete a little bit further, because everyone likes to play a little bit better and those kinds of things. But then also like, here's great people who understand the game that are available, like they're wanting to be a part of the community with you, which is very unique to a lot of things, and I think that's really awesome. um, and I think you talked about development. Like Rare Hunters launched a rookie team or whatever, and that's a cool thing. But like, that can play out in a lot of ways. It may not be that Maelstrom has an official rookie team, but you've got those people that are in your Discord that you're spending time with, helping develop their game, and over time you're seeing, oh man, they just won like 3 Woodies, and that's like $600. Good for them, like,
Yeah.
and it was because they were poured into, that. This is the kind of stuff that I would like. I wish I knew earlier in the game, and I just didn't know. Like I didn't know these things were out there and available. I'm personally not a heavy social media guy. Um, I just it oftentimes was very toxic in my life, and so I made a lot of boundaries to stay away from it and all that kind of stuff. But like, as I learned more about Lorcana, I was like, this thing lives on social media. Like it lives and breathes. There's so much that like is happening that I want to get to know. And over time, not overnight, like I began to learn more about this other part of the ecosystem, and that is like the competitive play, not just as individuals, but these teams that are coming together, these testing groups, and I'm learning about something like ICL, right? So this is a great stream that happens all the time about teams basically battling it out in a bracket, and it's super cool, but I didn't have a clue about any of it. I'm not a Twitch guy, so I'm a YouTube guy. And so I was like, oh, wait, there's a whole stream on this. And so, you know, talk to me a little bit about the ICL for people who may not know what that is, and, what your experience has been on it.
Sure. So the ICL was an idea by my teammate Wonderland. And he really just wanted a place where people could scratch that competitive itch in between big events. After Worlds, we kind of had a long wait period before the next DLC. And so, in the interest of keeping people, interested and keeping
Yeah.
eyes on the game and having helping just cultivate kind of like what you were saying, a reason for people to look at teams and try to develop a relationship with players or find maybe even their favorite players. He had the idea of, well, we'll just create a team-based event and we'll just run seasons doing that. Um, we on like as Maelstrom, have not a lot of free time in between all of the individual players. All of us do have day jobs. Most of us have families. Most of us have children that we look after. So, and that's not to say that every team that's on the ICL doesn't have those challenges as well. But for us, it kind of became really hard to schedule people to play in the event on our scheduled play days. And if we did, it would end up being the same people over and over again, and very likely the same people on the same decks. So people who were doing their homework or paying attention to what our lineups were, they more or less could easily counterpick us because of the format. The format is 3 players to 3 players, and you have to bring different decks. You cannot play like 2 players can't play Amber Steel, 2 players can't play Ruby Sapphire on the same team. You all have to play something that's different.
Yeah.
Um, so we would normally have the same people every week playing the same decks, so people would just kind of counterpick us, and our season 1 just didn't go very well because we honestly didn't have the time to put into it, and we didn't really feel like we wanted to put more time into it because any of our extra time was going towards DLCs or the recently announced CCQs or any of the Charlie's collectible shows or the Pro Play Game Summit, things like that. We would focus all of our time on the in-person events instead of that. So we decided not to join season 2 and decided we were just going to completely focus all of our attention on the in-person events. And I think for us, that was the correct choice. You can look at all of our performances for any Maelstrom member that has gone to any in-person events, and we're consistently topping these events and being in day 2 of DLCs or winning. Sky won the last not the last, but the Charlie's Collective show before. I was just in the top 4 of a CCQ this weekend. Sailor won a
Congrats on
CCQ. Thank you. In the DLCs, we've had multiple day 2s. I was
Sky
day 2
was
in
in
Milwaukee. I
the
was
finals. Yeah.
Yeah, Sky made the finals. So we feel like for us it was the correct choice because we wanted to focus our attention just in a different spot. But I highly encourage anybody who is on a team or is a growing team, because that's kind of what the ICL is about. It's not just for established names, it's for anybody who's on a team and feels like they want to reach that next level to put an application and try. I think if that's something that people want to do to stretch their competitive wings and try to be a part of something serious, because the ICL very much so is a serious event. People do their homework, and like I said, season 1 they were doing their homework on us, and that's what kind of pushed us to the farther end of the bracket. It's a very serious event, so if it's something that people want to be a part of, I highly encourage it. I think it's something that not only can bring people out of their comfort zone because of the ink deck restriction rule, but also can help you in planning for events. I think people who have taken the ICL seriously, on average, are starting to do better at the DLC level events because that planning and that homework and that, okay, well, if I think I'm going to run into these matchups, this is the kind of deck or these are the techs we need to bring, it carries over to the bigger events.
Yeah. 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 I think it is I didn't find it until much later. Like, it was just once again like a thing I didn't know about. And now that I know about it, it's like, oh, like this is it feels underground, very important to the competitive like thing of Lorcana. Obviously, we have players that are never involved in anything. They show up to a DLC and they top it and make it super far, and they were never a part of a team or anything like that. Like those people do exist, and but there's so much of like the people who put in reps in these very high competitive stake arenas are usually the ones that are also going to do really really well. For instance, like Fungus winning um, Richmond, and he went and just put so much time in on Fight Club. We won't say what it is, but like he just put in so much time playing and playing against very very high competitive people over and over again. And I think this kind of stuff is like it is very important. And obviously, you guys were doing your own testing and doing your own games and all that kind of stuff. But this is like a beautiful thing that we the community get to see. Like we may not get to see the background or all of those 1,000 hours put into Fight Club or those kinds of things, but we can watch something like ICL, and it can get you hyped to go be excited for an underdog going into a DLC and be like, man, is this person gonna top? Is this person gonna make day 2? Like I want to watch their journey. And what's cool about PlayHub is you can just kind of search up their name and you can follow along throughout their day if they're not tweeting it. But like you said, hey, big congrats on top 4 of the CCQ. I mean, I know you guys talked about it the other night, and it's just a card or two away from it being in your hands. Indy is there for you. I believe it. I'll
Yeah,
be watching.
absolutely.
I hope I get to see you on stream there. But that's like an example of like I know a lot of the guys on your team, and like even just know your faces and know your names. And if I see you all on stream, I instantly have someone to be like, oh man, I hope that this person wins. And that rivalry thing, that rooting thing. Obviously, we don't want to create like bad blood like situations in Lorcana where there's like, you know, you think of the Cowboys and like when you think of like football rivalries and stuff and like the way people treat each other, it's terrible and all that stuff. But there is like some story or some excitement to be found in like clashing titans and those kinds of things. Like I think about Worlds with DKP and Ed, and what's crazy is like Ed won his first DLC. He had to beat DKP to get there, right? Like so there's almost like a story that can be built or found in like over time, these guys, coming time and time again against each other. And that kind of stuff can happen in team world too. And I think it's something that would be very fruitful or helpful to the game, to give a lot more reason to spectate, a lot more reason to be involved in the game. Because honestly, there's like the season of Infinity right now. I had a chat with Mr. Burns, and we talked about just how Infinity is right now. There's a lot of people that are just kind of bummed out about it, and they're not necessarily in love with all of that stuff, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't be involved. Like they may not go to a DLC, they might not pay for the flight to go to an Infinity, but they'd still probably have someone that they enjoy to watch. They're hoping and rooting for that might do well in the DLC, and that would be still good for the game all in general. I hope that all makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot.
No, for sure. I mean, you could just take the CCQ that I was at this past weekend. I mean, in top 4, you had me and Tiago, and we kind of have our own individual stories, but Tiago and I have been fantastic friends since the beginning of Fabled, since he entered the game. You know, fantastic guy. I mean, every time we see each other, like it's a hug fest. Like he's genuinely become one of my good friends. So, he's this whole season, the joke has been, he can qualify everywhere in the world for their Continentals, but just couldn't get the North American Championship. And my storyline this whole season and the back half of last season was, I can get right there, but I just can't quite get over the hump. So there were a lot of people that were watching the match between me and Tiago and was like, I don't know who I want to win, because there are a lot of Tiago fans, and I'm gracious enough to have people that root for me. And we sat down and there wasn't any bad blood. Both of us were like, hey, we're gonna play it out, and we knew we were playing for the invite in that moment. But I'm not upset that upset that Tiago won, I guess is the way I could put it.
Yeah.
If somebody was going to take it over me, there's no one that's more deserving in my mind to have gotten there. Obviously, it's still kind of a little bit of a sting because being one game away, possibly one card, one top deck away is, one of those things that sticks with you. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, one of my friends reached a goal that he's been going for, and I'm still happy that he reached that goal, even if I haven't yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's that story, right? Like that's the, even though you maybe the story would be awesome if it went another way, but the story is like beautiful in a sense of like here's two people that have been just grinding events, and honestly it's that variance aspect of TCGs, like it's just that level of like sometimes it's not your day and all that kind of stuff, but it's like here's two guys, they're at it right now, like this is the, it is like beautiful to see that because you see it in sports, you see it in all kinds of different competitive natures, and that's the kind of thing I want to see more of for competitive is the story, right? Because there is like an avenue for it. Now, obviously, we want the underdog stories too. We want the people, the no names, the people that have never uh, shown up on a top list or anything, and somehow they're running a tear and doing great. Like that's super exciting as well. But I think there is like something I'd love to see in Lorcana, and you can maybe speak to this. Like, I don't know if it would ever be possible for Lorcana to give recognition to teams like Ravensburger, for them to, like, because of the IP stuff and things like that. I don't know if there would ever be where they are, you know, even if it was just like, hey, here's a snapshot of all the, top teams and how they're doing in this event or anything like that. Because I do know, like, I think like if you were wearing a team jersey and you got put on a stream, you got to take that off, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to cover it up.
right.
Just so to touch on that, I will say Ravensburger very much so isn't against teams per se. Um, but there's a lot of red tape and a lot of things as far as what gets put on stream and that element because of the Disney aspect and because of the IP and things like that. Um, but they very much so do encourage people to watch and follow and be a part of players' runs. They do coverage for players who are doing well, known players that are doing well. There's a reason why when you go to a DLC, if Sailor or Zan or Ed or DKP is in the crowd, more than likely there's a picture or a pan or a camera shoot going through the promotional material at some point of them in the room to show them. Um, while they not might not specifically be like, oh well, Zan of Rare Hunters or Ed of World Class Cards or Sailor of Maelstrom, they do highlight these players because they consistently show up, because they do represent the game well, because they do have the following, but also anytime they're on camera, anytime they talk about the game, they they aren't out here saying, "Oh, well, this game sucks," or "This
Yeah.
part of the game sucks," or what. They all of us really do enjoy playing the game. Now, are there ups and downs? Absolutely. Is it okay to put out criticisms and say, "Hey, this could be better"? Absolutely. But there's a difference between putting out constructive criticism and just dogging on something and not offering any feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they value more. People who are willing to have the dialogue instead of just immediately saying, "Oh, well, this is just never going to get better," and I don't know why we continue to deal with it and have that kind of attitude.
Yeah, that is I mean, I feel like that's in every hobby, sport. There's always the negative Nancy's and all that kind of stuff. And I do agree. They definitely are regularly showing some of the high, performing players and all those things. I think something that could be cool. I don't know if they would ever do it, but like a application program for teams to be like, hey, if you go through, you can be like an approved team, and that doesn't mean that we say you can't be a team when you're here, but it's just like you can wear your jersey when you're on stream, or we will like recognize your team identity. And I don't see that as something that like has to happen because it is like this. if this was a team sport, it'd be a very different situation because you would need almost a way to identify the team. Because it's individuals, there's not as much of a need to identify them in a team because it's going on. It's Logan. So Logan's great. We're gonna show him, and this is who we're gonna be talking about. But I think you would say that part of the reason you were able to make it as far in a competition is because of the team you're a part of.
I wouldn't even say part of. I would say completely.
Yeah.
I would have no problem saying I would not have the results I have without the team I'm on. Um, and I think that's something that isn't really detracted from people not being able to show team jerseys on official DLC streams, because when you learn more about these people, obviously you learn they're on teams. Sure, for the casual audiences, they don't know Logan as Maelstrom, but they know me, and anybody who looks up on all my stuff, it's plastered on all of my social media,
For
kind of the
sure.
same way with others. Um, I agree with you. I think it would be really good. I think it would. I don't think it would do anything to hurt the game. I think if anything, it would bring more clarity to the people that these individual players surround themselves with, and would give people more of a reason maybe to root for somebody. Um, but at the moment, I don't think they're just so turned off by teams. I just think it's the branding thing that ends up being
I
the
agree.
issue.
I don't think that there's a negative aspect out there about it. Is like red tape. I think that's a lot of it. It is red tape, and I get that happens in every big entity. So, but
Yeah,
it's one of those. And honestly, like this isn't top of the level issues for Lorcana, right? Like the whole team discussion in this conversation is definitely not like the biggest problem in Lorcana, or even a problem to even say that it is a problem. But I think it's one of those things of like, this is just a cool thing that I think would be stoking the fire of competitive in the game, right? Like
yeah,
it's one of those things that like it's the same reason we kind of the community would love an online client, right? Like there's just this reality of like we would get to play it more, right? And we would get more bought in, and we would be more sold into the game, and we'd have more people interested in watching the streams. And it's one of these aspects of like, I think the team base of like, I think it's like this secret hidden thing, at least from a guy like me. You're on a team, so it probably doesn't feel secret or hidden. You're like, well, I don't know what it's hidden about it. We post stuff and we're there, and and all this kind of stuff. But if, as a person who would just say watch the streams or attend locals and go to set champs, and maybe even watch some stuff online, you may not ever even know about a handful of these teams, or your favorite players on a team, or things of that nature. And I think it is like I think these teams are like a support pillar for the competitive nature of the game that's kind of living under the surface. Like I like the work you guys do to test and play, like it is not seen. It's usually done, like in Discord calls and on all that kind of stuff. And and that's happening with all of these pros where they're putting in hours and hours of the game, and it's something that we aren't aware of in the general pop, so to speak. And so that's why I'd love for it to just get shouted out. Like that's a lot of what like this video is like, hey, there's a such thing as teams in Lorcana. There's a lot of awesome people on these teams. You probably have seen them play, and you can go support them and be a part of what they're doing and learn from them. And you can, raise up in that. And I think there's probably some people that are like, how do I get on a team? And, like all that kind of stuff. Um, and, maybe that'll be one of our final questions. If someone wanted to join Maelstrom, they love Maelstrom, they would love to be, playing with you guys. Is there a world where you guys have like a recruitment plan or how you onboard people?
so for us, we kind of made the decision a little while ago that we wanted X amount of people, and like this is kind of where we would keep it, mainly because our community, I mean, the Lorcana community isn't huge yet. Do I believe it will grow? Absolutely. But realistically, we only have so much funding from the support we have to try to help or support so many people. So we didn't want to stretch ourselves too thin by adding too many entities into things. So right now we're kind of in the place of we're very happy with our roster and how the people that are on it. And if someone were to come to our attention that was maybe doing well, it would have to be somebody that kind of fills a role or a need that maybe we feel like we're lacking. At the moment, we feel like we're a pretty strong force. We feel like we've covered all the bases that we're trying to cover. So we're not looking for recruits, but maybe in the future that'll change if we grow and continue to be the powerhouse of a game that we believe Lorcana can be. That'll change. But in the meantime, like I said, if somebody joins our Discord or even reaches out to somebody individually, we have no problem sharing the knowledge we have and making you feel like you're a part of a family. Um, we have merchandise for a reason. So if somebody wants to, rep the Maelstrom brand, we have T-shirts, we have poker chips and things like that we hand out. So we want people to feel involved, but as far as like official roster level, that's just not something we're looking for at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I bought heavy play sleeves because of Humble. So he's a good salesman, you know. He showed me them at a 2K, and I was like, "These are cool." And then he was like, "Right over there, they're selling them." And I was like, "All right." So, but yeah, man. Well, one last kind of final question, and then thank you once again for your time. Thank you for what you guys do. Thank you for everything. Just the good vibes you're putting out in the community. I think you, in particularly, like are putting out a very positive thing that maybe not everyone else is putting out all the time. Even if you have gripes, like you are bringing in positivity with you and Liam's show and everything that you guys do. And so thank you for that. If teams disappeared tomorrow, how would the Lorcana community feel it? That's kind of my last question.
So I think you kind of touched on this earlier. I really think you would really miss or lose that top-down level of information that's currently being given. A lot of the innovation and decks that are being put out happen because people are on teams and are able to run games into people that they feel like are at a high level that they can test this idea and it'll have validity in a night of saying, okay, I want to go through a gauntlet of this deck versus Amber Steel, Blurple, Dogs, uh, Emerald Amethyst, or whatever have you. And we have people like, on our team that really specialize in certain ink combinations and would be a leading world example of this is how you pilot this deck well. And you just kind of lose all of that work and testing when we don't have these groups together. So, take any meta deck that you can think of. Everything from, set 3, we had Amber Steel Wheel to Ruby Amethyst to Sapphire Steel to Ruby Sapphire that was kind of starting to become a thing to the set after when Sisu on Ice by Sailors created. Um, or when you go to DLCs and you see Edmund Chu with, his clean 2-line 4-of lists that's targeting a very specific meta. These things happen because people are on teams and they run these decks through gauntlets. They go through tech options. They have sounding boards of people and ask, is this a good idea? Is it not a good idea? Show me why. Or let's put it in scenarios and see why. There's all of the innovation and all of the hard pushing for the meta in this game happens because people work together. And if teams didn't exist, just those group of people wouldn't be together to start making those innovations.
Amen. Yeah, man. So if you are watching this, go ahead and join some team Discord and learn and get in there and test and get better. And if you want, do it with Team Maelstrom. So thank you, Logan. Thank you, aka Xenulous. Thank you for this time. I appreciate you, and that's where we're gonna end it.
I appreciate it, man.